Hello everyone. I don't usually make videos like this, but I have decided to share a few thoughts on terroristic groups like ISIS, like Al Qaeda, the ones that the United States basically deal with on a regular basis in the Middle East. Now, Al Qaeda and ISIS, their members are not people who are well off. They're not people who have a large amount of money and are willing to die purely for their religious beliefs. I don't believe Islam, just as a religion, is naturally terroristic or violent in and of itself, because we have billions of Muslims on the planet and less than 1% engage in terrorist activities. So that obviously tells you that Islam as a religion isn't violent. And you can use any book to back up the violence you commit. Whether it be the Bible, whether it be the Quran, whether it be even the Bhagavad Gita, or the Torah, or sutras, Buddhist sutras. You can twist words to your own benefit in any book, even if it's not a religious book. You can twist the words and make them work for you if your intent is to commit violence onto other people. And I don't believe those who commit terrorist acts, whether they're Muslim, whether they call themselves Muslim, or they're any part of any other religion, I don't believe that they actually care about the religious texts. They're far more concerned about backing up their fears. And what do I mean by that? Okay, most people who are violent, just in general, whether religious or not, they are afraid. They're afraid of those they commit violence on, just the vast majority. Those who defend themselves and do so in a proper manner, those aren't the ones who are afraid. I'm talking about the people who commit violence on somebody who basically just wasn't coming at them or wasn't an enemy until they committed violence on them, or just might have been an ideological enemy as far as on the other political side or other religious side than the person that was that committed the violence. But I'm talking about those people who are particularly violent, who are offensive in it, who start the conflict, start the engagement of violence, whatever it might be, even if it's just a fist fight and not like in a war or anything like that. They are afraid that they are wrong. Now, the fear that we are wrong, that is something that hits us deep as humans, because we are very ideological. We identify things and understand them through ideas. We like to identify this and have an idea about it, and have a judgment about it. We like to identify our religion as the best way, and let's say I'm Christian. I'm Hindu, but let's say I'm Christian, and I identify myself as Christian. I make a judgment that it's the best way, and I take count of my enemies, of those in other religions. And this isn't all Christians, but if you're a violent Christian, and this isn't anywhere near the majority, just a minority of violent Christians are violent Christians, and I see other people in other religions as the enemy. So I have to figure out how I'm going to attack them or bring them down. Now, why does this happen in the mind? Because deep down, people who are violent, there's two things about them. One, they don't really care about the peaceful parts of their books. And two, they deep down feel like they're wrong. They want to fight the feeling that they could be wrong about the nature of reality, about God, even the existence of God, or the reality about other kinds of people. If you're a racist, if you're white, then black people are this. You want to fight against the idea that maybe they're not that bad. If you're a Christian, like I'm taking up that mantle right now, a violent Christian, very small minority, like in most religions, then you want to fight against the idea that Muslims are the same as you, but they just believe a little different. You want to fight the idea that maybe you're wrong about how you should attack them, or you should cause harm to their community, or just work against their interests. You want to fight against that. You want to fight against that because that is your understanding of the situation, and to be proven wrong by circumstances or by your own conscience especially, that is far more painful, because you have to reevaluate everything, and that's scary for most people who are violent. Whether you're religious or not, that is scary to reevaluate your understanding of the world and humanity and different beliefs about God, or lack thereof. You want to fight against the idea that you're wrong, that you might be wrong. Because if you are wrong, then that means the foundation of your aggression or your emotional commitment to going against certain groups is incorrect. And if it is, then you have no outlet to express those emotions. You have no outlet to express that violence. So you would fight against it because you want to express those emotions. You want to express that violence towards people who are different than you. And if you want to do that, you will fight against the idea that you're wrong about the ideas that you use to back it up. You know, very few people who are violent like this in any religion or lack thereof, very few people truly understand that they are simply violent and they want to use their religion or ideology, whether it's religious or political. Very few of them consciously admit that to themselves and say, no, I'm just going to use it. I'm just going to commit violence because they're different from me. And I want to mess them up. I want to destroy their life and maybe take their life. But deep down, they have that feeling. They have that doubt. That what they believe is correct. And honestly, this is one of the reasons, ironically, that I believe people are generally good, because most people, the vast majority, if I was going to slap a number on it that I just come up off the top of my head, 90 to 95% of people have a reason for doing bad actions or good actions or any actions. They have a reason. And I would even say that 90 to 95% of people who do bad things have a reason in their head. They have an ideology. They have their own understanding that they've developed in order to make it okay inside themselves. I believe that very, very few people are truly evil enough to say, I just want to do this, and I'm going to tell other people this reason, but I don't really have a reason. Or they'll just be like, I want to do this, I'm not even going to give a reason. So few people are like that. People want to make it okay in their heads because people are generally good. They want to make it good in their minds. Now, there's a lot of different things that go into convincing oneself. To convince oneself that violence is the best method, one has to convince oneself that to harm another person is okay, even if it's against rules in your book. To start a conflict is okay, but usually that's worked out by saying, okay, they started it a long time ago, so I'm just continuing it and getting revenge. And you have to tell yourself that most of the people in my religion or political group are just not willing to make the right sacrifices of themselves, or look at the other group as bad enough to attack them to get the job done, to do what needs to be done. That's what people tell themselves who are violent, the small minority of humanity. And these things go into their logic. They are plugins, applications that they add to their main desire to commit violence on other people. This is what terrorism is. Terrorism is a justification for what you want to do regardless of the belief system that you say you're backing. And most of the terrorists don't know it. Most of the terrorists don't truly understand, no matter what terrorist group you are, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, IRA, various groups in Pakistan or India. There's some Hindu terrorists out there, I'm sure. There's plenty of political terrorists, communists, capitalists. It doesn't really matter. There's a whole bunch of labels that are even added in a terrorist's mind, political and religious, that make up a terrorist, but they all have the same basic need to justify their actions if they're a terrorist, and not just a psychopath who just does it and says, I don't really care what anybody thinks or what I believe, I just want to kill people. Because people are generally good, so the vast majority of terrorists even have a mindset, have an ideology. They all have the same exact process like this. That there is no difference between a Christian terrorist and a Muslim terrorist, and a communist terrorist, a capitalist terrorist, a libertarian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist. There are some. I haven't heard of very many, but there are some Buddhist terrorists and Hindu terrorists. I haven't heard of any Hindu terrorists either, but there are some out there. But they all have the same justification system, even if it's different words in the justification, and the same desire to commit violence. And in the end, the sad thing is, a lot of people who commit violence just want to run away from analyzing themselves. And it's not just analyzing the reason you have for committing violence, you have that desire. Most people who commit violence have the desire to commit violence because they don't want to analyze themselves. They rather hate other people for what they deep down feel as being their own shortcomings. It's weakness. Terrorism, violence, hatred, anger, it all boils down to weakness. Every time. In every instance. Well, not every instance, but the kind of hatred and anger I'm talking about, the kind that is unwarranted, not a response to a necessity, just a response to a desire. These kinds of anger and hatred, they are weakness because someone is not willing to look at themselves, because everyone is able to look at themselves, they're just not willing to. And I really appreciate you watching this if you watch this far in. I know I've been talking for a while. It's been a bit of a rant, but I don't talk about terrorism and political things very often. But terrorism and violence of this nature, even if it's not even considered terrorism, because a lot of things that are terrorism aren't considered terrorism anyway. But these things have a very spiritual and emotional impact on humanity. And if we can better understand these things, we can better understand how to prevent them and how to keep ourselves from falling into these ruts, these terrible ruts of weakness and fear and ignorance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you found any of it interesting, hit that thumbs up down there. And if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And give me suggestions. I take video suggestions, and I'm willing to make videos in response to suggestions. I appreciate every single one of you. And thank you very much for watching and standing by my side here.